Hi, I'm Jenny with Garden Gate Magazine, and today I'm going to show you a seed starting technique called soil blocking. And the idea behind this is to eliminate using little pots, and you'll just grow your plants into a small cube like this, which is healthier for your plant and eliminates a lot of plastic waste. So let me show you what you need to get started. The first thing you're going to need is a soil blocking tool. And these come in different sizes, from 3/4 inch, you can see the size of the block there, to these are 2 inches. And there are even larger ones, like a 4-inch block that, and they're nestable. You pack soil in there and you plunge it out. And they come with a little dibble just for the seeds. And I'm going to show you how that works here in a little bit. The next thing you're going to need is a good sturdy flat. Now, if you want to use, I use this mesh bottom flat, especially for soil blocking, because I do a lot of it. And I use a very heavy duty flat tray with it. And that they sit down inside. If you use a regular grower's flat, they're a little bit wonky, and soil blocks are really heavy. The soil mix is very heavy, so you'll want to double up with a couple of these. And use one that doesn't have drainage holes in it, because a lot of times you're going to water from the bottom, and you don't want that water to leak out. But you can soil block into pretty much anything. You know, your deli containers work great, even an old tinfoil container, cookie sheets, old cake pans that you don't use anymore. All of those things make great containers to do your soil blocking in. The next thing is the soil mix, and that's a special mix, and let me show you how to make that. Okay, soil blocking mix is a little different than your usual germination mix, which is all light and fluffy. Soil blocking mix has to be heavy, so it'll retain the shape of a cube and not break apart. So, my mix is 1 part garden soil, a part of perlite, 2 parts of perlite, 2 parts of compost, and 3 parts of peat, or coir. You can use coir as well. The main idea is to make sure your parts are all equal. So when I do it at home, I use this 5-quart bucket, and it makes about 175 blocks. So, but today I'm just going to make a small batch. But I can do that because as long as the parts are equal, that's what I'm going for. So we're going to put in 3 more parts of peat. Keep in mind, if you're using garden soil, watch out, make sure it isn't the weediest part of your garden. And you might have to screen off some of the larger pieces. Perlite, use a larger chunk perlite is better. Compost, you can buy that bagged or make your own. Again, screen off some of the larger pieces so that it's a finer texture when you're working with it. And then the peat or coir, that just buy it bagged and get a finer milled sort of peat. Put in my last part, and I'm going to sprinkle it over the top of the perlite because perlite is really dusty, and once you start mixing, although my peat's pretty dusty today. Okay, so we're going to mix that all together, and I like to use a little garden rake for this, because then if there's some big chunks of soil or compost, that breaks it all up. And once we get it kind of mixed up like that, then we need to add some water. And we're going to add a lot more water than you would ever think you could do. If you start with your mixes a little, like your compost and your peat, a little bit moistened in the first place, that'll help. And you won't need to add quite as much. It won't be as dusty either. And as you go along, you're going to want it to be able to hold the ball and almost squish water out. So it'll be a lot wetter than you think that you need. Oops. If you get it too wet, you can always go back and sprinkle a little bit more of each element in, as long as you sprinkle equal amounts. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting some water, and it'll hold its shape a little bit. Okay, I think we are ready to form our blocks. Okay, I got my mix all ready to go, and it's as wet as I want it to be. So I'm going to get my soil blocker out and start working. So we're ready to make some blocks. So the goal is to simply push down as hard as you can, and it takes a little effort. And you're going to pack that in, and I usually flip it up and pack even a little bit more in, brush off that end, level off the bottom so it goes in nice and easy. And then you take it over and you set it down in your container, your flat, and then you push down on the plunger part and pull up and press down a little bit as you do it. And then when you pull it up, you've got these lovely little blocks already made. So as you're putting these in, make sure you leave just a little bit of space, maybe a 1/4 inch between each row of blocks, because what that'll do is allow air to circulate around there. And that does something we call air pruning. So when the roots grow out and they hit the edge of that block, they hit the layer of air, and they'll stop growing and circle back into the block. So as opposed to a plastic pot where they will circle around and around, and then you have to break that up when you transplant. This way you have less transplanting shock because your little cube is all ready to go right in the ground and you don't have to break up any roots. Okay, so our blocks are already made and I'm ready to plant. And as I said before, they come with a little divot, so it makes it really easy to drop a seed right into one of those little holes in the top of the block. So all you do is go along and drop that seed right into the little divot. And then if the seeds do not need to be covered, you can just leave them right like that. But if they need to be covered to germinate, then save a little bit of your dry mix and sprinkle a little bit on the top. Or just take a little pinch of your wet mix and kind of pat in a little dip, a little drop just to kind of hold that in. Okay, so I've got my flat all planted and the seeds are covered, and I'll give them a little bit of a mist. That'll moisten the any dry mix I may have sprinkled on top. It'll settle everything in, moisten the seed, and they'll be ready to go. I can put a cover on them to keep the humidity in and set that down on a germination mat and wait for things to sprout. Every day or two I'm going to check, lift up the cover and check to make sure the soil mix isn't drying out, because they're going to dry out kind of quickly because there is no pot. So if the soil mix looks a little light gray in color as opposed to the really dark that it looks now, I'll want to mist again. Or if they get really dry and once they start germinating, then you're going to want to water from the bottom. So you can either pour water in the side, down along here, and let it soak up, or you can just mist really heavily too, so if it's not too wet. They'll hold a lot of moisture, so, but you don't want to pour a hard stream of water on and erode the block and break them up. So a few weeks ago I started some seeds in my small 3/4 inch soil blocker. These are kind of handy for smaller tiny seeds and things that you want to maybe save a little bit more soil, get some seeds started, and then you might want to pot them up into the next size. So the beauty of the soil blocker is that they nest. So this 3/4 inch soil block will fit into your 2 inch soil block if you put the little dibble in. So you're going to take out the little dibbles that were here and put in a little square dibble, and they just pop right in like that, and then you have you can make a 2 inch cube that fits the 3/4 inch cube. So, and there are even 4 inch soil block cubes that will have a 2 inch dibble, so you can do a dibble from this size block into the next size. Okay, So you can see how I have a little square that will fit one of these little seedlings that came out of the 3/4 inch just perfectly. So you just set that right down inside, pat him in a little bit. He's a little overgrown. Pat him in a little bit and spritz him down with some water. And he is all transplanted. So I've got some seedlings started in seed blocks several weeks ago, and they're all ready to go out in the garden now. And it's just a simple matter of popping them up out of the flat. I use a little spatula, makes it easier. And you can see what a nice healthy root system that has on it. So those go in the ground really easily. It took me a little while to get used to soil blocking, but once I got the hang of it, I decided it was really the easy way to go for starting all my seeds. So I hope you like it too. Give it a try. And thanks for watching.